Hey guys, welcome back to the Deal Finders podcast. This is going to be an incredible episode. We have my friend and attorney, Gary Pickren, here in Columbia, and he's done over 30,000 deals, closings for real estate investors and agents over a long period of time, over a 30-year career. And he's going to tell us what's happening today, what used to work, and what's happening and working now, and what to look out for legally, what's coming down as far as the new laws and rules for wholesalers, agents, and all the lawsuits that are going on out there. So this might be a scary podcast, but I'm telling you, it will help you. We've got some action steps in here as well. So grab a pen and pencil, take some notes, understand that this podcast is here to help you get started, not to scare you from it. So we want you to get going down the right path with real estate investing today and be a deal finder. All right? We'll see you there. And we're back with another Deal Finders podcast, guys. I've got a great guest today. My friend Gary Pickren is an experienced attorney. He's been doing this business for a long time, and we're going to dive into what is it like to be an agent, an investor, an attorney, and what is it? How in the world do you manage all that and grow a business? So, Gary, I'm going to start off with just letting you tell us who you are, like how you got started. Obviously, you're an attorney, but you could have gone any direction. How did you get here?
Well, cool. First of all, Andrew, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to get together with you. You got such amazing insight into what investors do. Just sitting together with you at lunch a lot of times, there's a lot of fun just to pick each other's brains. And you're one of those people that challenge me all the time to come up with new ways and to think about stuff. So what you're doing is beyond invaluable. And having this podcast for investors in town is also invaluable. So guys, keep listening to this podcast because he gives you tremendous value. But thanks for having me. I have been a real estate closing attorney now going on almost 30 years, which is probably mind-blowing to most of your audience because I don't look a day over like 34.
Definitely not.
So the gray beard's kind of the giveaway. But I've been doing it close for 30 years, done about 30,000 real estate closings. I've worked with a lot of investors since the beginning of my career back in the 90s. I always looked at investors as a steady stream of business. Your top real estate agent may give you one closing a month, but a good investor group that you're working with may be able to give you 4, 5, 6, 7 closings a month. So I've always looked at investor clients as some of the best clients. The last couple of years, working with investors has been really good. I did get named to the Real Estate Commission here in South Carolina. So because of that position that I have, I'm able to see a lot of what's going on behind the scenes in terms of the regulations and how you're being attacked. And in addition to that, I have a real estate broker's license. I'm also a real estate licensed instructor as well. So a lot of hats I try to wear in addition to being owner of a law firm here in Columbia, which is also in Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, Malden, a bunch of different areas. So
what's the name of the law firm? We got to plug it while we're here.
Yeah, well, let's plug that. That's Blair, Cato, Pickren, Casterline. Our main offices are Greenville, Spartanburg, Lexington, Columbia. We also have one in Camden and one in Chapin now. So we got 6 offices and looking to expand a little bit further out from there. So we're still growing. And we do mainly real estate.
Yeah, real estate stuff and things that are around that. So again, you've got a lot going on. And I'm like you said, I love sitting and chatting. We kind of just dive into different things because you have been around the business for a long time and have heard a lot of the agent side of the business, just typically where your business is, where you're dealing with. And I'm one of those investors, and when we coach and teach people in the Deal Finders Club, we always say, stop fighting the agents, go be friends. You need your agents. So I want to just dive into that a little bit. What's the typical kind of landscape for agents and investors that you've seen?
Well, I see a lot of investors, particularly when we go on these national podcasts and talk to other investors and coaches, and they're telling us that, agents and investors are like oil and water. They don't mix. And I think that's the wrong message to be sending. And maybe that's been the case for years, but I don't think that should be our case moving forward. There's 2 big reasons for that. Number one, with all the regulation and all the complaints that are going along at the Real Estate Commission, we have to look and go, why is that? Well, a lot of it stems from real estate agents believing that you are basically taking their real estate commissions. Now, whether we believe that to be true or not, if they are adverse to what we're doing, then they're the ones who are going to be filing the complaints. And as you and I have discussed, I know one real estate agent whose goal is to turn in 100 wholesalers this year. I mean, that's what her goal is in life. And how she does it is every time she gets a text message from a wholesaler asking her about buying or selling her personal property, or one of their clients buying or selling their property, she immediately turns them into the real estate commission. So the first thing we don't want to be adverse to them is we don't want them turning us in. And I believe the more we incorporate them in our business where they are a valuable part of our business, they don't have reason to turn us in. They're now our partners, and you don't turn your partners in, but you turn the people who are competing against you in. The second thing I believe is when you look at what our best skills are, our best skills as investors are finding the deals, pricing the deals, getting the seller into a comfortable position where they are willing to sell us the property at a price that we can live with. What is not our skill is marketing and advertising property. That's not our best skills. So why would we not hire the real estate agent to market, sell, advertise, get it under contract, deal with inspections, deal with lenders, deal with closing companies, deal with title insurance issues? Let them do all of that messy work, which we don't want to do or are skilled to do, and let's scale up on the front end and go find more properties and let the back end be handled by the professionals who are best at it.
Yeah. What 100%. So one thing that you talked about there, and guys, if you're listening to this, you can also watch this on YouTube, the Deal Finders Club YouTube channel. But take notes, understand that what we're doing here is Gary's got 30 years of experience, and he's like literally unloading this for us, for the Deal Finders, for people listening to this, whether you're a beginner or experienced. Because he's done 30,000 closings, like he gets this relationship, he gets this process. And we may not spend all day on it, but I just want to make sure we hit this. But you said it right there, where agents for the marketing and the selling, the negotiation. I just had a conversation yesterday, I think, with one of our deal partners. They're licensed, but I said, do not list your own properties. And that's kind of counterintuitive, right? Investors have always said, well, I'm going to save the 6%. Well, really, it's only you're saving 3%, right? Because you got to pay probably the buying agent.
Right.
And then, well, is 3% worth your time that you can't go do another deal? And the big picture, the big thing is today, real estate is still emotional for most people. 99% of the population, they're buying their family home or somewhere to live. So it's still emotional. For investors, we should be unemotional, about it. We should be no emotion attached. And when we're detached emotionally, and then you got a buyer or a seller that is emotionally attached, if we're doing that talking, we start to create friction, and that's when deals go bad. So for me, I like agents for all of their experience, all of their professional work, but that buffer's huge.
Yeah. And then the other aspect of that, and you make a great point, is even if you could save 6%, let's say you could find a buyer who is not represented by an agent and you're not paying buyer side or seller side. The National Association of Realtors has run these studies for years. And the person that lists a property with the real estate agent versus those that do it for sale by owner, even at the real estate agent level, are saving 17%, making 17% more money on the sale of their house. So you take out the 6%, you're still making 11% more by listing it with an agent, even after paying them, than you would be doing it yourself. So that's 11% more. And the whole game here is to make as much money. Now, I know for a fact, you and I talked about this, when an investor is buying property as wholesale, they're typically trying to offload it to another investor who's also got to make money. So if you can bypass having to offload it to another investor and now get to go straight to the end user, the retail buyer, it's not 15, 17%. Your number, probably the number, I'll let you tell your number, because when you told me the number, it blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 66% more profit when you can sell it. And this is wholesaling, so this is not the investor flip kind of deal, but right. A wholesale deal, if you can get it to the MLS using an agent and let them negotiate it, we still, after paying all that, the fees and everything, was 66% more profit, which we obviously, that's all we do now.
And the best thing is not just the extra money, it's the time. How much time do you have to create internet posts, to put signs out in the yard, to try to pass this along to everybody you know? Hey, do you want to buy this? And negotiate a contract and be there when the inspector shows up, and to talk with a lender because they need a copy of this, that, or the other. Quit doing all the work that's taking time. Your time is your most valuable asset. Can't make any more time. You can make more money, but you cannot make any more time.
That's right. It's just like we hear it all the time in business. You got a basketball team, you got 5 players, and all 5 of those have a specific task, right? Mm-hmm. There's that one center that's in the middle, right? Well, when we're starting out a business, especially investors, most of the time it's one or maybe a couple, or a business partner. So maybe two people. Well, that agent is a very, very valuable piece. That could be your, shooting guard right there. That's right next to you, running the business. But you don't have to pay them every day. You only pay them when something closes, right?
And you're successful.
When they're successful. So I can't preach enough about like using professionals for what they do, and that's what agents do. And so, as an investor, go connect, make the relationships, build relationships with agents in your community, so that you can better your business. I mean, that's just number one thing to do. And so, you've obviously said you have agents or worked with agents that they only go to investors. They realize how good a good investor can be for their business as well, right?
Absolutely. I told somebody the other day, they said, you work with the top agents in Columbia and in Greenville market. I'm like, yeah, we have, I think out of the top 10, I think like 8 of them send us closings regularly. And you're like, well, one of those has to be your best client. It's like, no, it's an investor from California is my actual best client, because even the top agents in Columbia, South Carolina can maybe send us a couple of deals a month. I mean, if you're selling 100 houses a year, you're sending us what, 8 a month, maybe 8, 9 a month. I've got investors that send me that a week, because they are constantly putting houses under contracts themselves. But the guys I have in California not only send me all the deals they do, but all the deals they place with all their other friends and all their other investor friends. And so 4, 5, 6 of these investors come from this one investor, and I'm doing 4 or 5 deals every week. So now I'm talking 20 closings a month.
Yeah.
So my best client is actually an investor in California.
Yeah.
Who I've seen one time in person. He came here one time. I had to come in here just to shake hands. But I mean, that's insane. And it's a whole lot easier for us as well, because I'm dealing with an investor who's not emotionally attached to the house. Yep. You just want to close. Just close it. Let me know when it's done. And that's pretty easy to deal with.
Yeah. Agents, that's one thing I encourage agents. Hey, your investors, they're all business. You don't have to hold their hand. Maybe, the new investors, yes, you'll have to hold their hand a few times. But after that, it's all business, and they're not going to call you. We have a friend that she got a call or a text Saturday night at 10. It was like, hey, can we go look at these 6 properties tomorrow at 11, Sunday morning at 11. And as an agent, you're like, yeah, I got to do that because this person is trying to buy their home, and, I got to help them. There's no investors that are doing that.
No investors waking me up Saturday morning at 6 o'clock saying the homeowner's digging up the rose bush. I've had that happen twice in my career.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
you like me to go out there with a shotgun and tell them to quit? I mean, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah. Yeah. So yes. So the big picture is agents and investors have got to find a way to work together. If you truly are trying to build a lasting business, which is what we teach, in Deal Funders Club, is it's connect, learn, and build. And so connecting with people that can help you and you can help them, I think that's just so primary. And it's a little bit of a mindset shift for the agents. A lot of agents just aren't taught that. They're just taught that, hey, go find a buyer and a seller and we'll work this together. And then in 7 years, they'll do it again. That's okay. That's kind of it works, I guess. Plenty of people do that. But if you can get that good investor, you can really build your agent business. So
if you look at that 7 years, do I really want to have to work a lead for 7 years? And according to NAR's own statistics, in 7 years, if I get you back, about a 20% chance. So I'm going to have to work you as an additional lead for 7 years to have a 20% chance that you come back to me, you don't go to some other realtor, or more likely you go to Zillow. And then I got to pay for the lead to get you back to paying.
It's a rack.
It makes no sense. I mean, it really makes no sense.
Yeah.
Want that lead, but continue to work with the investors. That's your future. Work with your current.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so let's talk about, you kind of hit on it a minute ago, the wholesaling. And let's go into what's happening today. Agents, investors, and big topic right now is wholesaling. So we'll definitely hit that.
Yeah.
Because you have a very unique viewpoint of all this. So let's talk about agents with that lawsuit, or I can't even explain it, but the agent commission lawsuit, that the big thing that just hit. Can you start with that? What's going on there?
So that's called the Sitzer and Barnett case. That was a lawsuit that was brought in federal court in Missouri. The allegation was in November of 2019, the National Association of Realtors put in a rule that said you had to put some compensation as a listing agent for the buyer's agent, so that if I went and hired Andrew to list my house, when he put in the multiple listing service, which was somewhat, I guess, owned in most of the places by the Realtors Association, he couldn't just put zero as compensation for the buyer agent. He had to put at least $1. And so what the allegation was is because you as a seller had to pay my buyer agent commission, that somehow it was causing you more expenses. And so they call it antitrust, said it violated federal trust laws. Now, what happened in the end, there's a lot of problems with the lawsuit, in my opinion. In the end, a jury of 8 people, of which only 2 had ever bought a house. So imagine that. You have 6 people that don't know a thing about how to buy a house. It's like asking you to judge. Somebody mentioned the other day, it's like you having to judge an ice skating competition, but you don't know the first thing about ice skating. So you got 6 people who never bought a house, and they come back and said, yes, that somehow this process was, in fact, a violation of the antitrust laws, hit them for $1.7 billion with a B, not M, $billion, and then it got trebled, which means the judge, as a matter of law, had to make it 3 times, so it winds up being a $5.4 billion judgment against the Realtors Association, Keller Williams, all these, basically you name the real estate agency. And then immediately after that happened, the same lawyer filed a second round of lawsuits against everybody he didn't sue the first time that's a realtor. Right. And then we've had copycat cases in Texas, California, even one in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And they're suing agents, and it's terrifying everybody to death. I think ultimately we'll have a change, and what it'll say is that, and in South Carolina, I will say, we're somewhat protected as real estate agents here because we already have buyer agency. We already have seller documents that disclose that you don't have to pay us. If you want to, you can pay the buyer side. And so I think what you'll see is a more clarification of that, where the listing agent will say, look, you're paying me X percent. You don't have to pay the buyer's agent anything. Smart to, but you decide what you want to pay right in this box. And the reason you want to pay the buyer's agent is most homeowners are buying $300,000 average house in South Carolina. They don't have $9,000 to pay the buyer agent on top of their down payment, on top of their closing costs. So if you're not paying that buyer agent compensation, who are you going to sell the house to? I mean, your pool is going to shrink. Now, maybe at the upper levels, the $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 houses, maybe if you're rich enough, you can buy a $500,000 house. You can pay $15,000 to your real estate agent. But I'd see that's going to be a problem in the future as well.
Yeah. So does it trickle down to everyday agent, or what happens? Is this just?
It's interesting. Right now, they've mainly had only gone after brokers, but just recently in Texas, they sued a team because, in real estate, you have a brokerage, and in that brokerage, you have all these agents. Well, some of these agents will join together in what they call teams. So I could have the Gary Pickren real estate team at Blair Cato Real Estate, and Andrew could be on my team, and Matt could be on my team, and Alex could be on my team, and we work as a team. Well, what happened in Texas is a builder sued the real estate brokerage, then they sued the whole team that was listing his properties, and then they sued the name of the team. Like in that situation, they'd be suing me, like as a Gary Pickren real estate team. They sue that individual agent. So it's trickling down. And it just today, I read on Inman News that, and this shouldn't break your heart at all, but some very rich person in California sold her house and paid $50,000 real estate commission. So think how expensive this house was for her to pay a $50,000 commission. Yeah. The second she closed on it, the next day she sued the real estate agent.
So she just closed on it.
She just closed on it. Paid $50,000, $25,000 to her agent, $25,000 to the buyer's agent, and then sued her agent saying they cost her $25,000. They've asked to make it into a class. So it's insane. I mean, and there's a lot of problems with it. It's, my favorite statement, Gary Gold, who sold the Playboy Mansion, he told me the other day when we were talking, he's like, if you go to the American Bar Association and you look at what the traditional fee is for a personal injury lawsuit, it says a third. On their own website, they're complaining that real estate agents make a traditional 6%, as that was price fixing. It wasn't price fixing any more than lawyers making a third of a lawsuit is. It's just that became kind of the standard, not by price fixing, but just because it was.
Right.
So it's a big mess. It's being appealed. I think it could be overturned, but there's a million cases that are going to come out of it, and I don't know where it's going to end up. It'll be a big change in our industry.
Yeah, so kind of the big thing, and this isn't lawyer legal advice or anything, but South Carolina, it's already defined buyer and seller 3%, and you have to sign it. So, that's good to know. And it makes sense. It all makes sense. We all know what it was. I think the thing that caught me was it was that website or that brokerage that's now bankrupt that kind of got the ball rolling because Zillow wouldn't list their properties.
Right.
Or
be realty.
Something like that. But that's what I see, and I'm wondering because right now Zillow has for sale by owner on a different tab. Everything else is on. You have to look harder to find a for sale by owner. So,
well, the interesting thing, if you really think about it, is the brokerages don't really make money, a lot of money. So, one of the companies just got sued in Florida. He wrote this big article. He goes, they're suing me saying I price fix. He goes, I don't care what real estate agents charge for commission. If you're a real estate agent in my office, every time you sell a house, you owe me $295. So I don't care whether you make 2% or 50% on it. Doesn't matter to me. I make $295. So to sue us saying that we're trying to price fix is insane. I make $295 per transaction. I don't care. And he makes a good point there because there are more and more of those agencies around that. If you look at Keller Williams, if you're an agent at Keller Williams, when you hit a certain number of fees paid to the company, you're considered capped and you don't pay any more. So I think it's $32,000. So once I pay $32,000 to my brokerage and shared commissions, then the brokerage makes zero and I make the rest of the money. So quite frankly, the brokerage doesn't care what you sell it for as long as you make $32,000 for them at some point overall over the course of a year. They don't care what your commissions are. So I don't know why that defense was never brought up.
That's
I
funny.
think they should have had me for their lawyer.
Yeah, there you go.
To be arrogant.
So that's cool. That's a little bit more detail than I even knew about it. So, guys, if you're listening to this, look it up, Google it. It's still going. It's still active. There's a lot that's going to come down from this. So let's jump into what is really hit the fan earlier this year, and I know it's coming back around on this wholesaling.
Yeah.
Where, guys, if you don't know what wholesaling is, the typical term that it refers to. If I'm a cash buyer or I'm an investor, I go and I talk to a seller and I say, seller, I'd like to buy your house. We go under contract and then I assign that contract to another buyer who actually closes and I get paid, and it's what's typically called an assignment fee for moving the paper, basically signing my contract. That's causing issues, and there are whole states, I think Oklahoma and Illinois maybe, have put in rules, regulations, or just banned it, whatever they did. What's happening now? And, South Carolina, I know you got intimate knowledge there, but everywhere. What's going on?
So wholesaling is a big problem nationwide. The realtors and real estate agents believe that assignment fee is basically a real estate commission. They're saying that you signed a contract to buy the house for $100,000, and you assigned it to somebody for $120,000, so you made $20,000, which is akin to a real estate commission. In South Carolina, wholesaling was perfectly legal until last year when, in a matter of about 15 minutes, the real estate commission, hearing a complaint about this from a homeowner, the seller said, I sold the house to this guy for $100,000. Next thing I know, there's a real estate agent box on my house. People are looking at my house. And later I find out he sold it for $120,000. Where's my $20,000? I got cut out of this. I don't know anything about it. So in a matter of minutes, the Real Estate Commission ruled that in order to market or advertise property that you do not own, you have to be a licensed real estate agent. And so the argument was like, well, I'm under contract. That gives me some type of ownership interest. No, it does not. And under any circumstances does that do that. So at the end of the hearing, basically, while wholesaling itself was not declared illegal, the biggest mechanism of wholesaling is you can't market or advertise. And that includes social media. That includes private Facebook groups. That includes me picking up the phone, calling Andrew, going, hey, I got a great deal here. Do you want in on it? That's marketing and advertising. So that's the first thing in South Carolina. So then as a real estate commissioner, I got to go to our annual meeting in Montreal. And there I started talking to states, just like Andrew mentioned. And I found out there's a lot of states out there that have rules and laws against it. So right now, I know in Illinois, if you wholesale, it's a $20,000 fine. $20,000. Wow. Tennessee's MLS just came out with a MLS rule that says if you wholesale and you're not a licensed agent, we're going to fine you. And I think it was like $5,000 per. One of the states in New England calls it a misdemeanor, and they'll actually give you a criminal record for it. And even states that haven't outlawed it, you look at states like Arizona, I think it was Utah, some others, they have this long disclosure form that you have to give to the consumer. And it basically says, seller, I know you're wanting to sell your property and I want to buy it for a low amount, but basically I'm going to buy it for really, really low and I'm going to sell it for really high and I'm going to take all of your equity. I mean, that's essentially what it says. And no homeowner reading it would ever want to do the deal. So what we know without a shadow of a doubt, and you could literally do a 15-minute Google and find all the states that either have case law, statutory law or regulatory law that's changing it. And it's happening rapidly. Even Pace Morby himself in a post this year said, we can stick our collective heads in the sand or we can realize it's going to happen. And here's my point, and I'll end on this one, is you can sit here all day long in the state you're at and say, well, it's not under attack in my state. I don't worry about it at all. But what happens if you have 5 deals that you're wholesaling? You're already under contract to deal with, and then all of a sudden your real estate commission comes in and says no more. How are you going to offload these 5 properties at that point? You're done. And so it's a real thing. It's happening. It's not going to go away. It's going to the vice is tightening every day in wholesaling. So we have to come up with mechanisms to get around it.
Yes. So this all really, it's only been a matter of, which I say a couple of years. That's really fast for like laws and changing of how you operate businesses and things for it to sweep across the country like this.
Right.
So it is coming like a wave. And the wholesaling, like you said, the marketing is what we've all kind of been taught that we had ownership or we had equitable interest in it because we had a contract. And you're saying that's been now defined as that's just not true.
An equitable interest says that you have some type of ownership interest that allows you rights to use and enjoy the property. If you think you have an equitable interest because you have a contract on the house, go ask the seller if you can use the house to watch the Super Bowl and see the laughter. He's going to say, you have no right to use their house. You have no rights to enjoyment. You have a right to close on the contract if you bring money, but that's it. You have a contractual right. An equitable right is where you literally have put in some type of equitable ownership. Either you've put money into the property that's part of it, or you have some interest of it, maybe because of you're an heir to the property or something of that nature. But you're not going to have an equitable ownership just because you have a contract on. That's the biggest misnomer. And when I go to the real estate groups, those Facebook groups, and I read all the stupidity, my suggestion to you is when you read what people put in these groups, and look, they're very valuable. You can learn a lot of how to set the anchor and do all the things you need to. But when people start telling you legally what is and what is not right, are you going to listen to a lawyer or a real estate commissioner? Or are you going to listen to some guy that you don't even know who's sitting there typing going, yes, everything's perfectly legal? I don't trust my career to some dude on a keyboard. Keyboard players are the most dangerous people in the world.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, so people getting started in real estate, they've heard this wholesaling term for the last few years. It is pervasive. It's everywhere, especially if you're looking on, YouTube or Google or whatever, and you're saying, I know my place in life. I know I'm made for more. I've got more energy. God's given me more talent, but I'm stuck in this job or this place. I need something that I can do to get out of this. And so that's where the Facebook ads and the YouTube and everything gears people to what can be financial freedom through real estate. And if you don't have money, you don't have credit, you don't have experience, you land on wholesaling, right? And I still think it's the number one way to get people started in the business. However, you can't go at it with just this whatever, I'll sign any contract. If it doesn't close, I'll cancel, whatever kind of attitude, because you're dealing with people's lives and their homes and
they get in.
People, it's like the biggest thing they've ever bought, right? It's their biggest investment. And if you don't do what you say you're going to do, you get in trouble. But so, we still
part of the, if I may, I think part of the problem is that what we're really talking about and what you really talk about isn't really necessarily wholesaling. It's real estate investing. And there's a billion different platforms and ways to do it that are seller-centric, meaning that they are valuable for the seller, that helps the seller. Because look, not all sellers want to go to a real estate agent. Not all sellers have time to go the traditional route. Some of them want an easy, quick transaction. They want cash, whatever it may be.
Yep.
I think what's happened, though, is the word wholesaling has become synonymous with real estate investing, just like Kleenex and tissue or Xerox and a copy machine. And so I think we use this word wholesaling to basically mean real estate investing. So I think we ought to just quit using the word wholesaler and quit telling people you're a wholesaler and quit asking, hey, do you want to wholesale? Are you interested in real estate investing? That's what you're doing. And I think it's a better term for everybody. And I think it gets the legalese issues out of, the legal sides out of it a lot.
Oh, yeah. And the first thing I tell people is wholesaling is not investing.
Right.
Wholesaling is a job.
Right.
You are hustling and you're a deal finder. And that's how we teach it. That's obviously where our name came from, is when you become an expert deal finder, wholesaling was just an exit strategy that you can use.
Right.
But if you want to become an investor, then you buy and hold, you buy and improve, you develop, those type of things. So wholesaling as a term is been, I don't like it. We use it because everyone kind of knows what you're talking about.
Overly broad.
Yeah, it's really broad, but where it's going these days is not really what we preach and teach. It's we teach how to find the deal, and then your exit strategy is up to you, right? It's what you should be doing next. So tell me, you talked a little bit about the equitable interest and the fact that you can still do this. You can still go be an expert deal finder and help sellers and then connect with good buyers. What is a way that people can do that now without a whole bunch of money, without all that credit that it takes to buy a brand new home? What's the next step?
So for me, as a lawyer, I'm always looking for something that's going to be 100% legal. I don't have to worry about regulators, real estate agents, or anybody else coming at me. I want something that's going to be easy to use and understood, as well as something that's kind of seller-centric. And the reason I want to be seller-centric in it is that with a lot of our investing that we're doing, everything is investor-centric, meaning that how low can I push the seller down? I think this big misconception in our industry is price always wins. And I know it doesn't, because as a real estate closing attorney, most of my clients that are sellers were getting 10, 12, 15 offers on their houses last year in the summer, and they weren't always accepting the highest price. They were accepting best terms. And it might be they need a long closing period so they can find somewhere to live. It might need a short period closing time because they're losing their house. It could be they need help with moving costs. There's a million different things. So what we did is, when this case came down with the real estate commission, I sat down with some of my investor friends and we started looking, what is a platform that we could use? So we came up with using an installment contract. Installment contracts have been around since the 1800s. They are legal in all 50 states. Every state has case law, or some states, like 20-something, have statutory law on it. There is IRS guidelines on it. There is title insurance guidelines on it. There are lending guidelines on it. So all of the legalities that we need are there. And so what we did is we put together a platform called the Installment Method, where you can meet with a seller, find out what the seller's pain is. With the seller's pain, you can address that pain. Is it they need more money? Is it they need money in their pocket today? Is it they need 60, 90 days to live in the house to get through Christmas? Whatever it may be. And then we enter into a contract with them to do an installment agreement. The installment agreement truly does create a legal ownership interest. It's called true equitable ownership interest. And once I have that equitable interest, now I can market, advertise, list property with real estate agents legally, because I am considered an owner of the property at that point. They're not transferring deed at this point. They're keeping their deed, which is a comfort for the seller. So we're giving as many comforts as we can to the sellers. And by giving them those comforts, I'm winning more offers, because every other wholesaler is just offering them $10,000, $1,000 more, $500 more. I'm actually solving their problems. Now, I also know, as Andrew said, if I can list now on the MLS, I'm going to make 66% more money. So I also can actually outbid every wholesaler, because they're not listing properties on MLS. I am. So at that point, we get us under an installment contract. We're making these things short-term. Traditionally, they were 12, 24, 36 months. We're making ours for 90 days. That gives us time to get in there and either do rehab or do quick, I call it the apartment rehab. We paint them, put some fluff the pine straw in the front yard, clean it up a little bit, fix a few problems, and then put them right on the market with the real estate agent. And one of our biggest clients, named Devin, he says his average deal on wholesaling was about $15,000 to $17,000. His average deals right now in installments are $40,000. He said he now will not do a deal unless he does the numbers and it looks like he's going to make 35 or 40. That's what he's doing. He's quit doing wholesaling altogether and just doing installment method.
That's incredible. I'm going to do the math, and that's about 66% more profit.
Well, I didn't even know that.
I think I did it right real quick. I think I did it right. It's right about 65%.
Yeah, there you go.
So, it's
it's a good. Let me say this: we didn't create installment contracts. As I said, been around 1800s. When I first started practicing law in 1995, we were doing a lot of installment contracts for buyers with bad credit. It was the only way they could buy a house. We've just taken this and come up with a strategy that shows how to apply it, and that's why I like it. Is like, you can go to any lawyer and go, do you know what an installment contract is? Yeah, can you draft it? That's fine, but it's really the strategy of how you apply it. How do you convince the seller that it's the best strategy for them to meet their needs? How do you convince them of the legalities and the safety net that it provides them? And then what are our offloads? How do we offload? And actually, there's 7 different ways to offload it. How do we offload it? What's our best? What's our worst case scenarios? How do we get out of a worst case scenario? So there's a lot of strategy and tricks in it that I think are very good. The people that are doing it are telling me they're making money, but at the end of the day, they said it's an amazing change in how they're dealing with their sellers, because in wholesaling, if they cannot get a deal done in 30 days, they're typically having to go back to the guy and beg for more time. And after the second time of doing it, sellers are mad and they think you're a liar, which damages your reputation. Now, if you're wholesaling in Chicago, maybe you don't care. If you're wholesaling in Columbia or Lexington, your reputation is going to get ruined. Andrew's got a phenomenal reputation. I mean, you see him up there on TV with his beautiful family. He's got a reputation. People want to deal with him because he's a strong Christian man who does things the right way, and everybody knows that deals with him. So what the people are telling us in installment contracts is you're creating that same type of vibe. The person knows that you're trying to help them solve their problem. They know you're making money. They know this is America, we do that. But they know at the same time you're helping them, and when you don't have to go back to them and beg them for more time because there's no way you're going to find a retail buyer in 30 days. You're not having to go back and do that. You're being above board. You're talking to them. You're helping them out. And you're telling them it's just they're liking it. They're loving it. They're liking it because at the end of the day, the sellers are hugging them and telling them, hey, you really helped me out of this bind. And one of Devin's that he just did, the guy, wholesalers all over the place calling him, has to sell. He cannot afford the house. He lost his job. He's going in foreclosure. All he cared about was he had to make it through Christmas so that his kids did not know what was going on. And this contract was signed like 2 months ago. So Devin did a 90-day installment contract. The guy was is going to be able to stay in the house for Christmas and New Year's. And he thinks that my client is the greatest human being in the world because even though he knows my client's going to make more money, he was able to keep this family in the house for Christmas, which was all he cared about. And so that's why he got the bid. He would never have won but for that.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about. And that's why wholesaling became a thing, is we are literally solving people's problems. Mm-hmm. What tainted it and what got the attention of all the lawmakers is the people that were really just doing it for themselves and not doing it to solve problems.
Right.
If you keep the seller in mind, you keep the clients in mind, and you work for them with them, you will actually probably get more deals, but you're going to have a pretty good business when you get good referrals over and over again. So,
have a business that everybody hates you. I don't.
Yeah, that's no
what
fun.
Model thinks that's going to work.
That's
I want to model my business where everybody thinks we are the best business. Everybody knows deal finders in the community. Everybody knows you're part of the community. Everybody likes you. It's not like when Andrew comes on the TV, people are throwing things out. They're like, oh, there's that guy that helps people. That's the business you want. Who wants that business? I don't understand this whole idea.
Exactly. It's when you go, if you put money in the front instead of the clients, instead of the sellers, you get in that position. So I love that that's what you're teaching. That's where your clients are going. That's what this installment method is doing. What's the website so that if people want to learn more about it?
Installmentmethod.com, and they could go on there. We have a contact section. If you want to have a contact with one of our founders, one of the founding members will actually schedule a telephone call with you and walk through the process with you. And we have not only you can buy the program then, but we also have financing options and all kind of options to help this work for you. We want to get this in many hands as we can because what we're doing is we're trying to create a community. We want people who are sharing their experiences, their successes, so that others can learn from those, and that we can basically push wholesaling out as we know it, the standard, and make this kind of the way that people are doing it. Because we think this will stop a lot of the problems with the legislatures and the real estate commissions.
Yeah, if you're doing it the right way and you've got clients, referrals that are standing up and saying, this guy helped me stay in my house all through the Christmas, it's hard to get in trouble, right, when you're doing things the right way. So, guys, if you do want to check it out, just let them know you heard us on the Deal Finders podcast and that you heard from Gary, and so they will know exactly who you are and what you're asking for, what you're looking for. But Gary, this has been an incredible podcast, and I know that people are going to have questions. If they want to find you, ask questions, your law firm, that sort of thing, I know you have a podcast too, so tell us what that is and how people can find you.
Sure. My law firm is Blair Cato, so you can find me at Gary, Gary, at Blair Cato, and that's BlairCato.com. Feel free to email me whenever. I do have a podcast myself. It's called Dish and Dirt. It is a podcast for real estate agents to try to make the real estate agent's profession better, whether it's marketing, advertising, business development. So even if you're not a real estate agent, you can get a lot of tips from there on how to build your business, plan your business, and do things of that nature. You can type it in on Google or go to any platform, and we're on Spotify, Apple, you name it, we're there.
Okay. And we'll put the links down in these show notes and stuff too. So guys, this has been, Gary, thank you so much. This has been a really fun podcast. I'm learning. This is why we do the podcast, because it's for everyone that's listening and watching so that you can learn. But I'm also here learning myself. So Deal Finders Club, if you are local to the South Carolina market, or you just want to drive into South Carolina, we do have weekly meetups. We have nighttime meetings, morning, lunch. We are getting together, getting connected as a community here to help everyone do their business a little bit better. So if you're local, check us out, dealfindersclub.com. If you are looking for a way to get into this business, like we talked about, and you know you have something else that you can do, you've got the energy, you've got the drive, you want to change your legacy, check out dealfindersclub.com. We have some resources there, the YouTube channel. You might get plugged into something that will help you. So we want to encourage you to do that. Stay tuned to the podcast. Make sure you like and share it as well. So Gary, thank you so much for being here. And y'all go out there and just take some action to move towards your financial freedom. All right, we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the REI Deal Finders podcast. You can find out more and apply to be a part of the REI Deal Finder community at reidealfinders.club.